cube is destroyed.
What the hell?
We'll deal with that soon enough. The piece of music that we're hearing right now, as I mentioned before, is called Fermata and Mistic Air. And the first time I heard it was actually in the Silent Hill movie from 2006. It is used in a scene toward the end of the movie where Alessa is kind of revealing things about the plot. And it's just used in that single instance. And it's got such a haunting, ominous feel. Again, we're in, like, all the pieces in this game tend to linger around C minor, F minor, and G minor. This one in particular, the main melody suggests that, and that keyboard instrument we're hearing now, the kind of like bell sounding one, I think this is a Rhodes piano, and this is actually closer to like a typical Rhodes piano tone rather than the one that we heard in Forest. Or it might be a vibraphone or marimba or something. I'm not sure. I once embarrassed myself in one of my college classes by misidentifying an instrument, but it was kind of so that the teacher could make a point. It was like the first day of class. But a few things that I want to say about, first of all, like the fact that so many of the pieces are in C minor, F minor, and G minor. That again speaks to Akira Yamaoka's sensibilities, where like his classical, Baroque, Romantic era sensibilities, where when you're writing a sonata, for example, you tend to pick like your home key, and then other parts of it are in closely related keys. Closely related keys in music theory are keys that use a lot of the same notes, but and so it's easy to like transition between them. Like if you wanted to modulate from one to the other, you wouldn't have to work very hard because like they already share a bunch of notes and chords. And I'll pause this for a moment so that I can bring up my piano demos screen and demonstrate that a little bit more directly. Okay, so when I was recording this bit on stream, my keyboard was somehow transposed up a whole step, so all the chord names and note names I was using were incorrect, so I'm re-recording part of this now to correct that for the Staying on Theme video, and hopefully I'll be able to thread it seamlessly or fairly seamlessly into the parts from the stream that I can still use. But we were talking about closely related keys. Most of the pieces on the Silent Hill 2 soundtrack are written in one of three keys: C minor, F minor, and G minor. And I think it's very common for soundtracks. As I mentioned before, it makes it easier to thread things together, to modulate between keys if you need to. And this particular piece, Fermata and Mistic Air, is written in C minor. F minor and G minor are closely related keys because they are built on the 4th and 5th scale degrees of the scale. So if we are working in C minor, C minor is built on the 1st scale degree. Then we've got F minor built on the 4th scale degree. G minor built on the 5th scale degree. I'll move that around. It's very common to hear songs in general written based around these chords. If I'm playing it in a major key, there are so many different songs that are written using those chords. And that 5-1 one relationship is very common for giving us a strong sense of what key we're in. You'll hear it a lot in classical pieces. They do the whole at the end of a piece to remind you, like, hey, this is where we started, if they've wandered very far from that in the development of a piece. Closely related keys use a lot of the same notes, easy to transition between them. And so that's why you hear that a lot throughout the pieces on the Silent Hill 2 soundtrack. It's particularly interesting with a piece like Fermata and Mistic Air, because if I go back to it now, so we have this, hold on one second, my notes are on the same screen as OBS. We have this piano ostinato in the foreground on the piano. Ostinato is just a repeated musical phrase. I think I might have brought it up in a previous video. But yeah, we've got this. That's our main instrument that we're hearing. But we've got this synth tone playing in the background. It's kind of panned right, and it has this very scratchy, eerie vibe to it. And it's going back and forth between these notes. So it's going back and forth. If we're working in C minor, it's going back and forth between the 4th and the 6th scale degrees. And it kind of calls into question what key we're actually in, because it's lingering on these tones that aren't part of the main chord. They're part of a closely related key, the F minor chord, and so it doesn't sound dissonant per se in the way that like a non-diatonic chord would. But it gives us this impression of we're not quite sure what key we're actually in. It's almost like it's suggesting this F minor chord over a C minor chord, and I think that's very purposeful. And I will go back to Stream Me talking about that because I think I articulated it pretty well there. There's this weird kind of like tug of war almost happening with what key we're in and what the primary color and texture of the chord is, which I think is very intentional. It's supposed to be just like we've just witnessed something awful, and like the music is kind of it's almost like a reflective of James's mental state, where like, okay, we've got the literal story happening with he met Maria and she died and then she came back and now she's died again, and then we've got this underlying story of the emotional story of like, yeah, but I'm searching for Mary, and there's this like we're starting to get more of this conflicting information for us as a player and for James's character, where it's like none of this makes sense. And I think that is kind of reflected in the sort of ambiguous tonal center of this piece of music. And yeah, you are not going to find this piece on the remake soundtrack because they did not re-record it. What we're hearing right now is the track from the original game, which I think is fine. I think like it is so iconic, and I think it's fair that there were a few pieces where they're like, we don't need to redo this. It like serves the purpose well. Other pieces, like what we'll hear later, Laura plays the piano. I think they really wanted to figure out a way to be more intentional with the pieces, but particularly since this isn't playing over a specific scene anymore, they can just let it be this looping background music. because it doesn't have to hit specific beats in the scene the way that, like, After Daddy from the previous stream did, or as we're going to see, Laura Plays the Piano does. One last addendum that I wanted to put on this video before I upload it. I realized throughout all my discussion I hadn't really talked about the title of this piece at all, Fermata and Mistic Air, which is very musical. Starting with the end of it first, it could just be referring to like Mistic Air as in like mystical. It has more the vibe to me of air, the musical term, which it's one of those terms that is kind of vague from what I looked up on Wikipedia, but is used from time to time. Wikipedia defines it as a song-like vocal or instrumental composition. So another way you could think of it is like a recognizable melody, because they talk about it being used to refer to folk melodies as well. Mystic is misspelled by English standards, but that happens every now and again on the Silent Hill soundtracks, and I don't know how much of that is intentional or not. And so it could be referring to this piece as like a mystic air, like a mystic song, a mystical song. But I think more significantly is the first word. More significant is the first word in the title, Fermata. Fermata it is a musical symbol used in sheet music. It's I'll put up a picture here on the screen, but it is a dot with an arch over it. I learned it in my Alfred music, like piano lesson, basic learning books, with a song that was like talking about a rainbow or something. But basically, a fermata is used to indicate that a note should be held longer than it is like written on the page, or there should be a pause there. And more often than not, that fermata is meant to be essentially up to the performer's proclivities. Like you may see it at the end of a piece, or you may see it at a very pivotal moment in a piece where they want you to just hold on that moment for a bit longer than just the standard beat. You're essentially breaking down the rhythm for the sake of emphasis or emotion or expression. And it's a funny name for a piece like this because there aren't really any actual fermatas in this piece. It is like a lot of the songs on the original Silent Hill 2 soundtrack designed to be looped and designed on a very like pretty rigid structure of like, okay, you've got a steady beat that everything is falling over and it loops regularly. But if there is any significance to this being the title, I think it is more closely connected to the fermata's connection with death and silence, perhaps. I'll put another picture up on the screen somewhere. But there is a very famous tombstone of a Russian composer named Alfred Schnittke, and his tombstone is it's got the 5 bar lines of sheet music, a whole rest on it, and then a fermata above the staff, and a triple F below the staff, the triple F being the dynamic marking for fortissimo, or very loud. And basically what this is meant to convey on his tombstone is the loud silence of death. And considering the fact that this piece originally plays during the scene where James discovers Maria dead a second time in the labyrinth, that might be perhaps what they were trying to convey with the title. Whether I've never been able to figure out if Akira Yamaoka comes up with the titles of the pieces, or if someone on the production team does. If anyone knows for certain of that, please let me know. But yeah, that might be whoever came up with the title for the piece was going for. The fact that Maria and Mary are dead, and the Fermata signifies the long eternal silence of that.